say it qualifies, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know the
The album is called Violent Femmes. It was brought to us by Mike Hilbig, a frequent flyer on YUH. And we'll be talking about the album, looking at, which ones are our favorite songs, maybe saying just a little commentary about what and why. There's only what, 10, 11 songs on this album?
10,
There's 10,
10?
10 on the original release, and then they re-released it in '87 with two additional songs on it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I
I think
only listened
the
to 10.
CD went to 12.
yeah.
So it goes to 12.
It goes beyond 11.
Mhm.
But apparently there's going to be a reboot or another Spinal Tap.
Okay.
Speaking.
Yeah, sequel.
Okay.
Got that
Interesting.
local. But welcome, Mike. We should say also the author of Judgment Day and Other White Lies.
yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Sorry, I was putting my phone on
The audio's
Do Not
out.
Disturb because it keeps dinging in the background. So
Has Philip invited you to maybe come on and our we're currently calling it Doge Laugh Love. It's our political version.
I don't know, but I'd be happy to join sometime. So yeah, just reach out to me when y'all in the chat.
We'll
or
give
something.
you our we do kind of have an agenda for each episode. We're doing it every 2 weeks.
Okay, cool.
And we have another friend, Will Holloway, who's joined us as a regular. So
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So
and if there's a subject you particularly want to discuss, let us know.
Okay, sure thing.
So I'll just give you an idea what we're doing. We're meeting every 2 weeks, and then we're kind of taking notes in the interim and just kind of recapping the previous 2 weeks of fuck ups and evil shit.
Hilarity ensued.
All right, for sure. Yeah.
I think we should call it hilarity ensued.
yeah.
That part of it.
Yeah.
I like the name Political Cadence better than Doge Laugh Love.
Well, Aaron
Yeah.
hates Doge. Anything with Doge in it is like kryptonite to Aaron.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I
So
just
we
said I
may
don't.
be-
I just said I don't. Oh, I wanted to get Doge out my mouth. Is that what I said yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just recorded our second episode. Philip's looking for an issue. So he's going through the episode to edit it. Hopefully it will be posted later today.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Reach out to me in the chat. Yeah, we can do that. So
Austin walked somebody and he stole second.
We got a ball
Cool.
game too.
Okay.
All right, so Violent
Mhm.
Femmes, they formed in 1981.
Mhm.
They kind of came together incrementally. First of all, you had Brian Ritchie and Victor De Lorenzo, who were active in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, playing in a number of bands. Typically, the rhythm section, we're talking about the bass player and the drummer. And they met Gordon Gano when he was still in high school. So he was probably not quite old enough to join them on some of their shows, but they
Just didn't mention it.
yeah. But they found him performing with his brother in a band, and it was only supposed to be a temporary group because Richie and De Lorenzo were planning to move, I think it's to Minneapolis or something, to join another band. But the more they rehearsed with Gano, the more they liked the vibe. And so they started writing new music. Didn't do so well at the beginning. So they started playing on the street corner, kind of before, they were, I forget what they were called. What
The
they
name.
called this act
Trio.
of performing on the street, but you see it when you go to ball games and stuff like that.
Mhm.
People standing on the street
Busking.
playing sax and drums for money.
Mhm.
Yeah, busking.
Aaron, you said the audio is going in and out terrible.
Busking. Busking.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. That's what I was looking for in my notes here.
Oh, I thought you were looking for the name of the band
Yeah.
at the time that they were.
No, it's what they're doing. They're singing, hoping somebody throws money in their
Right.
guitar case or whatever.
Actually, that was kind of how they got discovered because Christy
Mm.
Hind caught them. I believe it was either in Madison or Milwaukee. I can't remember which one, but she invited them to open for the Pretenders, and that was sort of like their first
Crazy.
break or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah. But I don't think it was like overnight success or anything. They had this gig and they really benefited from that. It probably got a lot of steam off of that break, but they
yeah,
still had to scrounge up the money to produce an album. They had a number of original songs by now, and uh, they needed the money to rent the studio and cut the album. And it turns out Richie's father, and it, kind of an act of legendary proportion, gave them $10,000 to go ahead and do the album, which was released.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, they were
Mm.
apparently Lisa points out they were booed mercilessly at their first show opening for the Pretenders, but
yeah.
Also, you had written busking.
I know, but I couldn't find it when I was trying to.
Couldn't find it.
Um,
But Victor's dad gave him $10,000 to make the album.
right. Um, so there you have it. That's kind of the lead up to where we're at here. This is the first album released in 1982, 83. It was like early 83, wasn't it? It was like done in 82,
Yeah.
released like in January or something.
Yeah, and I think like when I came to y'all with this album was I actually recently, I'd say about probably 3 weeks ago, went and saw the Violent Femmes. They performed their first two albums, start to finish. So they did Hallowed Ground first, and then they did Violent Femmes self-titled and a couple of encore songs. And it was my first
Cool.
time seeing them, and they were really cool live. And it got me thinking about a lot of different things because so the Violent Femmes, part of their story, I think, is that they're kind of like this well-known band in the underground or the punk scene or whatever for a lot of years. And they're kind of passed around between sort of music nerds, but didn't really have like they weren't like big on the radio or whatever. And then in the early '90s, when I was a high school student, or might have been middle school, but it was middle school or high school, end of middle school or early high school. My so-called life, that show on MTV, uh,
Oh,
had Blister in the Sun in one of the scenes of the show, and then the song sort of took off. Even though it was like a 10-year-old song at that point. So and then they sort of had the MTV success after, after having been, a underground band for, a decade or so. So it's sort of an interesting thing because I think they started a lot earlier, but I think they're synonymous in a lot of ways with a lot of those 90s bands, which I think they had a lot of influence over, but they weren't technically in that. I mean, they were still around in the 90s, but they weren't technically in that generation of musicians. They were a little bit before them. So
Yeah. I've seen them once. I think it was 93 or 94 at the K-Rock Almost Acoustic Christmas.
yeah.
And yeah, they were at that time lumped in with a bunch of 90s bands. I mean, they were on bill with No Doubt and I think Radiohead and all kinds of.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were probably, more popular after that moment, which I think is so that was like one of the things I found interesting. So, I mean, a couple things. Like one, I think like, you get into your 40s. I don't, I go to a lot of like local music shows. I don't often go to big concerts. One, they're just more expensive and, the beer is expensive and everything else.
yeah.
But also I kind of like the local scene. I like knowing who the people are in the bands and seeing what new stuff they have and that sort of thing. And it's sort of like what we do for fun on the weekends. Houston has a pretty thriving music scene right now. But every once in a while there's a band that I really love that I'll go check out and so this all happened. It was like the week that so the drummer in my band recently passed away of cancer,
Oh,
that he's had for a few years. And so it was like, you know, we went and saw that show kind of the same week, and it was that first sort of moment of like, okay, things are okay again, and like and we had a really good time. But I was, thinking about, watching all these sort of uh uh old fogies walking around, like myself, and the band Violent Femmes, like it's interesting. I didn't realize he was in high school when he joined the band, but that kind of is reflected in a lot of the lyrics. Like they have songs like "Come On Dad, Give Me the Car Tonight," or like
Yeah.
lots of like horny teenage music, and I find it funny because they got really famous making this album, uh, and now this guy's still in his 60s playing,
Right.
why can't I
Yeah.
get just one fuck, or like whatever, it's like and
Come on, Dad.
yeah,
Give me the card.
yeah, so it's got this real nostalgia factor to it, and I think like nostalgia just as a concept is interesting because like a lot of it's harmless. I mean, like my band Big Fan, we were exploring nostalgia in a lot of our songs just as a theme. We were doing kind of early 90s throwback music, and a lot of the lyrics were structured around nostalgia. And I think like a lot of like political formations right now, as we were talking about a little bit before the show, like are really, a lot of those ultra white ring "Make America Great Again" kind of currents are really rooted in nostalgia. But there's also the harmless, form of nostalgia, like let's go see this band we all really loved when we were a teenager and have a good time. So I don't know that I have any definitive statements on it, but it's just, being there and kind of, you know, paying too much for beer and
Yeah.
uh and rocking out with a bunch of people that are getting over the hill. But the band was really awesome, and it was like at an outdoor it was like an outdoor stage on like a perfect day in Houston. It's like mid 70s, winds blowing, and yeah, and it was just like a really cool show. And I also like the Violent Femmes records. Um, it's this stripped down sound. They play a lot of like folky kind of sound of music. He plays a banjo and a fiddle and uh,
Yeah, definitely like that was going on in the 80s that I can remember. It sounded very different from a lot of
yeah.
the 80s music that we were
But,
accustomed. I want to correct one thing
oh, go ahead.
because it is kind of an important point that I made. It wasn't Brian Ritchie's father, it was Victor De Lorenzo's father who
Okay, cool.
put up the 10,000. And when you were talking about your drummer, I was like, well, okay, so we need to correct that.
Yeah.
It was a
So
drum.
so I think seeing them live, you really get to see all the instrumentation that goes into it because there's a lot more going on in those
Mhm.
songs than like what sounds like on the surface, which are just these poppy kind of catchy songs. Their bass player in particular is really, really awesome.
Yeah.
But they've got like, they've got a guy that's playing a bass saxophone, which are cool to see live. Those things are huge. And like just xylophone and like they just there's a guy like beating a box on the corner of the stage. It's just like playing horns, and it's just like they got a lot going on, and it's kind of a
Cowbell.
fun thing to see live. Yeah, and then they also switch off instruments a lot. Like the bass player plays the xylophone through one song, and Gordon Gano, he has a fiddle on some songs and guitar on others, and a banjo on others. So there's just like a lot of moving parts and moving around, and they're fun to see live. Yeah,
I think the first thing you notice when you start listening to the album is his voice. I mean,
yeah,
there's no getting around the fact that his voice is very distinct. And
Oh yeah.
Very,
I can't imagine that he's
very
not
Bob Dylan influenced, I'd say.
influenced by who?
Bob Dylan.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So I get some Lou Reed
think on,
too.
yeah, Bob Dylan on his liner notes from Highway 61 Revisited said something like, "I'm not really a singer. I'm a master at the art of nasal voice control."
Yeah,
Well, at least he recognizes what we've
Yeah.
all noticed about
I think
Dylan.
To be totally honest, Dylan is not high on my list of voices, and this guy is under him.
Dylan is the
Yeah.
patron saint of misophonia,
Yeah.
maybe.
Okay. Well.
yeah. I
Um,
think
but yeah, that's but his voice is like I feel like maybe that's his normal voice, but I feel like he does it for effect. I feel like that the vocal ranges he does, the inflections he does is sort of a lighthearted. When I first heard Blister in the Sun, I was like, okay, this is a post-punk band, and it's some I don't know, it's just like some young, skinny, sarcastic kind of flamboyant character is flipping off the world and everything. But the more I listened to this album, the more it seemed like it was more of a sense of humor, more whimsical. Even though some of the vocals are dark, but you mentioned the adolescent nature of some of the lyrics. So it's not like a very politicized band at all, I don't think. I mean, it's a
Well, they've got a song called Old Mother Reagan.
Yeah, they've got a couple of like mildly political tracks, but they're not like but I do think they have kind of like so where I sort of center them is I think like and maybe this is just because of when I found them, right? But like I think they really fit in with that sort of slacker culture that comes about in the sort of, late 80s and early 90s. They probably preceded just a little bit, but they're probably influential in it. But it's like, they're um so like when I got into the Violent Femmes, I was kind of a rough teenager, and so I was already like, you know, smoking pot and drinking and taking acid and doing things that I wasn't supposed to be doing, and really, pissed off at my parents, and like, and the Violent Femmes sort of, they encapsulated all of that
Yeah.
for me as a teenager, right? Like that kind of anger and frustration and desperation and being horny all the time, And so like they were like kind of like me and my very first girlfriend, that was like Blister in the Sun was like our song, and like so like it's like kind of like has that slacker kind of like the world's not made. It's got a real Gen X vibe. I'm kind of probably more fall into like the very early millennial camp, but I'm in that kind of in between area. I was born in '82, so right at the end of Gen X or right at the beginning of millennials. But it's got that real Gen X sort of vibe to it, sort of
Yeah.
nothing matters, kind of nihilistic, kind of thing going on. So
First time I heard the Violent Femmes wasn't actually the Violent Femmes.
okay,
Um, I was, I think the bars had closed in Cincinnati. We were looking for an after party. I was with my friend Eric Wilmoth, and we found one. And there was a bunch of people in there, and one guy with an acoustic guitar, and he played Blister in the Sun. And everybody in the room knew all the words except me. I'd never heard it before. It's like 1988.
yeah,
And Cincinnati radio, it never made it until it probably made it 5, 10 years later. But like you said, when the MTV show came on.
all right. Sorry
yeah,
about that. We're looking. Why don't we why don't we go ahead and plunge into the album because I know Mike's time is limited
yeah.
today. But we'll go in sequence of the album. So the first track is Blister in the Sun. So we'll play a little bit of this familiar track right here. All right. So this song's been popularized in as you mentioned, the television show, right?
Mhm.
Um,
What television show?
It was My So-Called
My
Life.
My
So-Called
So-Called
Life.
Life.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
okay.
it was on MTV. It was like super big with teenagers
Right.
when I was that age, So yeah,
I believe it was also in Gross Point Blank.
The movie,
yeah, it
not the
might have
series.
been.
I think John Cusack is probably an indie rock kind of fan because he did Empire Records also.
Yeah, Empire Records and
High
Uh,
Fidelity.
High
the one,
Fidelity.
yeah, High
High Fidelity,
Fidelity.
right.
Love
Yeah,
that movie. Love the series. If you
yeah.
haven't seen either, do so.
Okay.
So,
Both are really good.
like a lot of songs on this album, this is very infectious. The songs are, like you mentioned, we keep going back to Gano's Youth, and these are songs that like when you're a kid, you ever make up songs or hum things in a melody or something like that. That these
Yeah.
songs seem to almost evolve that way. They're very simple, but can't get them out of your head type of confectionery. This song is very much that way, I
Yeah.
think. With and we should say also using acoustic instruments that you can imagine them on the street corner doing the busking, performing this song very easily.
Yeah,
Uh,
their drummer plays a barbecue pit live. Like that's one of the things incorporated in his drum set. He's got like a snare and a barbecue pit and a floor tom and like a couple cymbals. And he plays standing up. He doesn't, sit
awesome.
behind a
It's
kit.
nuts.
Yeah. So that's
I picture him with just one snare.
Yeah.
but probably out of familiarity. This is not. I didn't list this as my number one song on the album. We're going to do
Yeah.
our rankings here at the end, but uh, definitely highly listenable, poppy, just really good song. kind of notes you guys have on it.
I mean, yeah, this was like this was I think the first song I heard by the Violent Femmes. So and yeah, and it was like I think that when after it got played on My So-Called Life, it got played on the local Houston radio station sort of over and over and over again. So it's like one of those songs that like I don't have it ranked as my number one either. It's a really catchy song. It's hard to rank the songs on this album because I kept
Yeah,
wanting to
they're
switch.
similar kind of.
Yeah, I mean every song on this album I think is like I don't think there's not a song on this album that's not like that, right? Like they're all catchy. They're all not every single one is upbeat. There's a couple that are not upbeat, but the majority of them are like these upbeat, catchy songs. Uh, and yeah, but it's my first introduction to the Violent Femmes, and it's obviously sort of, got me interested. And I went and bought the album not long after that, and found others that I like more. But yeah, it was a really big song. It was I'm in my mid 40s. I think is an important song for a lot of people my age. Probably also a little older too. But yeah, so um, yeah, it's about masturbation. So it's uh, again going with that sort of teenage theme. I think like one of the things about this album that I find like yeah, some of the songs are juvenile and whatever, but I think going back to being that age when it came out, it really resonated in a way that I think a lot of music was like, oh, I'm waiting to be an adult or I want to do this adult thing or whatever. And the Violent Femmes were like, they're singing about the things I care about, and I think it has a real timeless sort of quality. I mean, I think I still hear of like younger kids getting into this band today because I think they have that kind of quality
Right.
for that age group. Yeah.
It's funny that you should say because I found a quote from Gano about big hands.
Yeah.
Mentioned masturbation, and that's not what he said. That's not what he said. But I
Okay.
guess he was giving a clean answer or something like that to the question. He was
That
like,
was just always what we what we said it was about when I was a kid. It might not actually be, but
what he
it's
said was that since they're a band that kind of seeks the offbeat or weird elements in life. His in this scenario, the song, the big hands kind of offset the idea of beauty and
okay.
and
Yeah.
his
I,
loved one.
But then you hearken back to him saying they met in a bathhouse, a gay bathhouse, and big hands has a new connotation.
Right.
Yeah.
There's that also. Although they're very
Speaking as a RuPaul Drag Race fan.
well, he's been questioned about whether or not he's gay or not, and he doesn't give a
Rat's
direct
ass.
answer or whatever. But
Excuse my language.
but
Am I allowed to say rat's ass?
yes, of course.
Okay.
You just can't say you're going to assassinate the rat.
Why not? It's a rat. It's not an orange rat.
All right, so Aaron, you got any?
I don't know if I have any more notes on Blister in the Sun.
It is what it is.
First Violent Femmes song I heard, but it wasn't the Violent Femmes that played it. That's my note.
Well, when we went,
Well, I'd like to hear other versions.
I'm talking about that
Like
that
I
after
said,
party with the guy with the guitar and everybody knew all the words and I didn't.
well, you have heard someone else play it because
Yeah.
when we went and saw Weird Al, he played it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Was it a direct or was it the parody?
It was direct because,
Okay.
but he joked when he introduced the song. He said, I know people come to see me do the parody songs, but I want to do something that's entirely, completely original from my catalog. And then he went into Blister in the Sun. So
Isn't yeah.
yeah, obviously
Yeah.
all right. So the
Now they
second
play
track,
it at like ball games. You hear on the organ do 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 do
Yeah,
do do,
yeah.
and then the stadium goes clap 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 clap.
Yeah.
what's wrong? Lisa, what are your
Nothing.
comments on Blister in the Sun?
What I'm upset about is you got my rankings wrong.
Oh,
So completely. 100%. But you know what? I've decided to adjust to your rankings so that it just makes life easier for me.
Okay,
Okay.
we will correct that. as
No,
we
no,
go.
leave it. That way we're on the same page in
Well,
case.
in what way
you know.
are they're in the right? They're in order, right? But they're in the wrong. They're in reverse order.
No, they are not.
Okay.
A 10 is supposed to be best.
Okay.
Okay. No redeemable.
One's best, 10's worst.
Okay. So I am going to adjust to the crowd. Aaron just said 10 is worst.
Yeah.
So I am going to adjust to the crowd. Okay.
All right.
Okay. It's just very annoying when I do
your
not
number one is going to be the number one, right?
what I wanted. Blister in the Sun is the number one on this for me. I've heard it on radio play before.
Is that accurate? Is that what your number one would be?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's supposed to be a 10 because it's the best.
But
That's all I'm saying. My rankings were the reverse. I did not realize you fixed them to make them match yours.
Okay. But they are in the order.
Okay.
They're just not.
I'm sorry. I
different
came
number.
into this a little annoyed because Philip and I were talking about something, and I did realize that he was basically saying that I was wrong because I wasn't doing exactly what he wanted and thinking exactly the way he thought.
I would have a
So.
different interpretation of that argument, but okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
All right. The second song off this album,
Austin just walked and they pinch ran for him. He's
Yeah.
pitching.
Kiss Off. That's not a comment on your baseball broadcast,
Yeah.
but that's the second track on this album.
I think it's my number two. I haven't actually written out my rankings, but I know my first 3 or 4 in my head.
Yeah, that's my favorite song on the album. I just like that's the punk rock ethos. Like
Yeah,
I'll just
I
kiss
think
off.
number 1, Give Me the Car. Number 2, Kiss Off for me.
Well, see, I didn't know whether to put Give Me the Car on the
It wasn't on the vinyl and the cassette.
Yeah, so I ranked the 10, but I like Give Me the Car a lot too. That's one of my favorites. But yeah, Kiss Off just has that real punk rock sort of, you can all just kiss off it in the air, and then it has a super, super cool bass line. A super, super cool bass line, and it's like it's hard to hum
Cool
it out.
backup vocals too.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just a really cool, and then it has the big build up at the end where it's one for my So yeah, that song's really cool. I like it a lot. So
yeah. You know what? I had that number one mine as well. So that's going to score well. That's going to play well at the end. Let's see where Lisa.
I put it number 7.
Yeah.
Alright.
I don't really have a comment on it. So,
Right.
I think it was somewhat unmemorable, I guess, for me.
Well, I just loved like the strumming guitar. And I like the part where he stops and says, "This is going to go on your permanent record."
Yeah.
Like you can imagine somebody must have said, like a teacher or
Yeah,
a principal must have said that to him at some point,
Yeah.
Don't get so distressed.
Yeah.
Did I happen to mention that I'm impressed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the build up at the end is really, really cool. Everything, it's just gets real, real loud for a band that's, like we said, doesn't have a whole lot of heavy instruments. So, they get pretty loud there at the end.
They do.
Yeah. All right. So the next track, Please Do Not Go. Interesting that he didn't use the conjunction there. He said, "Do not go." The lyric or the title is "Do Not Go." And Aaron, you want to kick that one off? What do you think of that one?
Musically, I like it. It sticks in my head, but it's so whiny. It's near the bottom of my list of tracks, I think, on this one. But it does it just sticks in your head though. Please, please, please do not go.
Yeah, I kind of like it has kind of like a ska upstrum kind of thing
Kinda.
to it.
I like that bass walk. It does doom doom doom
Yeah.
doom 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 doom.
It's farther down on my list as well. I mean, I like it. It's like I said, this is one of the couple of, I mean, most of the songs on this album are pretty fast. This is like, or at least pretty upbeat. Maybe not fast is not the right word, but this is like one of the sort of more groovier, slower songs on the record, and yeah, I feel like that was like the when I saw them live, it felt like, I mean, everybody was singing along to every song, but it felt like that was kind of like the moment for the audience to catch their breath after Blister in the Sun
Yeah,
and
cool down.
kiss off. Yeah, so yeah.
All right. Lisa, what did you think of that?
I felt I I went with reggae as opposed to ska.
Yeah.
But there was like an element of reggae when he was singing at certain points. It kind of it's almost felt like he meant to do it the whole time and it just didn't work out. Um, so I did actually like it. I will say that as far as music goes, I really liked a lot of the songs. I just wish someone else was singing them.
I agree with you
But
on the
I
reggae. I thought so too.
I
put
kind of
I
I
put
kind of have
reggae
a
okay.
I have a thing for good bad singers. Like I love Lou Reed and Tom Waits and Nick Cave and a lot of guys that have kind of awkward voices. So I like Graham Gano's voice or Gordon Gano, right? So yeah,
And one of the things for me is there's a lot of him just giving up and talking. And
yeah,
it doesn't feel like it's it feels like he's doing it because he literally just can't sing that lyric, and rather than adjust the lyric, he's just gonna talk through it.
yeah,
Interesting.
To me,
Yeah.
that's how it feels to me in a lot of these songs.
yeah,
Well, I like the part where he goes, the interlude. Again, they have these strange interludes in the songs where he goes, ay, 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 ay. It's like
yeah.
it almost sounds like Frankie Valli or something like, but in the
Yeah,
depth.
that was the one thing he didn't yeah, why? Yeah, that was the one thing he didn't do live. He didn't do those falsettos. He just like sang it regular, probably because he can't hit that note
Because you
anymore, right?
can't. Yeah.
Yeah,
So well,
but yeah.
Mhm.
but like all good bands, I feel like they do sprinkle the music with different, different allusions to um,
Different.
different eras of music. Like I heard some surf rock in some of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
We talked about East Bay Ray and the Dead Kennedys
yeah,
episode. I hear some guitar playing that's kind of reminiscent of that style sometimes.
yeah.
Um, Maybe not so much in this tune, but in some others. But all right, so the next track, Add It Up. This is another banger, I think. Lisa, why don't you
Um, honestly, I know that, this is not necessarily my genre, so I don't know, I found it was like dull.
okay.
It didn't excite me in any way, one way or the other. Mhm.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
thought, we talked about the surf rock. I feel like this is one that actually did kind of feature some guitar playing that was reminiscent of that. Also, the there's the bass line in it reminded me a bit of Break On Through by the Doors.
Yeah.
Um, then there's the introduction of fuck into the song, which was kind of
Yeah.
strange for that era. You really know you're listening to independent rock when you hear that type of, especially from
Right.
that era.
Music
On the
that
radio, they usually replace it with dog barks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Why
I
can't I get just one arf?
yeah. I really love that
Yeah.
yeah, like just that like sort of weird vocal part he does. I really like Add It Up.
That's the best part of the song right there.
I think I had it at 4 on my list. So it's like
me
it's up
too.
there. Yeah, I like that song. That was of course like,
Oh, that's
in,
good.
in high school that was like our favorite one as teenagers because that was the one you'd play when your parents weren't around or whatever, like and they probably wouldn't have been happy to hear it had they, but yeah, so uh,
Yeah, I hadn't heard the studio version in a long time. I have the added up compilation CD, and
Yeah.
it's only got a live version on it.
Okay.
Okay. I had it really high at number two.
Yeah. Okay.
I just thought it was a good.
It's probably number 3 or so for me.
Yeah.
It was a little bit more complicated than some of the others. Musically a little bit more challenging than some of the other songs on the album, and I liked it quite a bit. So next up was Confessions. So Aaron, why don't you lead off on that one?
It might be my least favorite.
Least
It's
favorite.
it's one of the darker songs on the album for sure. Um, yeah, that's my note.
Okay. I had it down there. I had it number 8. I I did like the bluesy bass line. That's about the most I can say for it. It kind of takes the temperature down on the album a little bit.
Yeah, I have it my least favorite as well. I was just kind of, it's if I had one throwaway, that'd probably be it on the record. But for the most part, I like most of the
Yeah.
songs.
It belongs on the record, I feel like,
Yeah,
but it's my least favorite of them.
yeah.
Please.
Uh, I'm not sure if any of these rankings are actually what I chose, but it says 5 and music okay, vocals suck.
So I was listening to
Sounds like all the other songs your description for too, right?
it. Kind of.
Pretty much. Some of them have a different prescription.
That's
One
good.
has no redeemable qualities. One has candy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay. Right. So that.
we'll get to those.
All right. So moving right along, Prove My Love. Let's see. Maybe I'll lead this one off. Where do I have it? Oh, I got that fairly high. Am I wrong? Was there some electric guitar in this song?
Um,
Could be. I don't know.
there could be. I'm not sure.
Drop. Damn it.
So I got it listed fourth. Um, the third verse, same as the first. Kind of, I like the way it kind of comes back around lyrically, and I do think there's some electric. I could be wrong, but I thought there was some electric guitar in this one. Um, yeah, uh, you know,
Yeah, I really like this one
I,
too. It's I think third on mine. Yeah, I think the lyrics are really good. It's upbeat. It's got a, pretty, fun, loud chorus. Yeah, so yeah, I dig this one.
that kind of waffled between this one and another track for that fourth spot, but
Yeah.
kind of edged it out.
No, for me, this one is where I put candy, because it felt kind of confectionery.
Okay.
Yeah, probably put it 5 or 6 in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems to be a consensus here. All right.
Promise.
Promise. Seventh track.
Want me to start?
Yes.
No redeemable qualities.
So obviously that's your number 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Mike?
Um, I like Promise. Yeah, it was um kind of trying to yeah, yeah, I like Promise. I think it's I don't know, it's pulling up real quick. Had some notes. Um,
Game's over. We lost 6-2.
nice. Yeah, it's got a cool guitar part on the chorus, and yeah, I like Promise. It's middle of the pack for me, but it's a good song. Yeah.
Aaron, what you got?
Yeah, it'd be right in the middle somewhere, right? Probably just underneath. What was the last song we did?
Um,
Prove my love.
Prove my, yeah. Yeah, it'd be probably one below Prove My Love.
yeah, I thought it had like some 70s punk rock uh, vibes. I have it number 6. Um, yeah, there's just it is a strong album, so that's not necessarily, like I said when I go in for my review every year, that's really not a bad score.
You
You know,
know, I think this
not
is an
bad.
album that's really meant to be listened to as an album. I think like uh it has the sort of peaks and valleys going through it. I think, and yeah, it was really cool to see it live performed like that because you know, it was just a cool experience to see that. Yeah, so it made for a good live set as well as just a record. So yeah.
Hmm. Kind of woke the audience up a little bit.
Yeah, well, they did the second album first. The second album, it's is interesting. It's sort of more countryish sounding, a lot more folky. And so it doesn't have the same catchy songs on it. It's probably not. It's called Hallowed Ground. It's probably not as well remembered. So they kind of did that one first, and then did their self-titled. They did an intermission and then their self-titled, and that was like sort of as the sun had set because that was the other thing about this nostalgia show. It was like a super early show with. That's partly because the venue they built this outdoor venue and then the neighborhood passed an ordinance and so now they have to finish their outdoor shows by like 9 p.m. so they all start at like 6 or 6:30. But a bunch of old folks going to a concert and you're home by like 9:30. It was sort of funny experience.
My, my wife and two of my sons are, as we speak, en route to Texas for a St. Vincent concert in Austin.
Okay, cool.
So they'll be uh, they'll be checking out St. Vincent like Tuesday.
Okay, that's funny.
Well, yeah, that's Austin's become a pretty big. It's always been a big music
Yeah.
hotbed.
They were going to fly to Boston to see Nick Cave with St. Vincent on the bill. And
Okay.
instead, they're driving to Austin to see St. Vincent, and they're going to drive to San Francisco to see Nick Cave.
Oh, nice. And Nick Cave was one of my. It's maybe my favorite, but it was up there among my favorite concerts I've been to. Uh, I saw him play it on SMU's campus in Dallas. They have a orchestra hall that's like I forget what it's like. It's like it's like a perfectly tonally pitched room. It's
Mhm.
all made out of wood,
Like
and
Walt Disney Concert Hall or something.
yeah, it's just like acoustically perfect kind of room, and it was amazing watching that. He did like an extended long version of Stagger Lee as his
Oh,
encore.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son Lars, his favorite musician is Nick Cave,
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
and my other son's favorite musician is St. Vincent. So,
Sweet. Yeah.
Okay, I was about to ask you who was the big St. Vincent.
Liam's the St. Vincent fan, Lars is the Nick Cave fan,
Got it.
Yeah.
and Eli likes more Japanese music. Actually, he likes Keith Emerson too because he played on a lot of Godzilla movies, apparently.
Okay.
All right, so number 8 on the Violent Femmes first album is "To the Kill," and Mike, why don't you lead off on that one?
Yeah, I like To the Kill a lot. Um, yeah, I like To the Kill a lot. Um, it's another one of those ones that's got cool lyrics on it. It's got like a lot of he's playing around with his voice a lot. So yeah, I dig this song. So
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of experimental.
Yes, I put that down too, Aaron. Experimental. Um, which actually didn't really come, hit the mark for me. Gano's voice is experimental, and I appreciate trying new things, but this song just didn't do much for me. I noticed the Illusions Al Capone. This
Yeah.
band's from Milwaukee, really very close to Chicago. I know Al Capone is always ubiquitous in that area. It's like for pizza places and different, um, just different iconography. But I found it relentlessly off key is what I wrote. I do have I had it like number 9. But what about you, Lise?
Um, I ranked it number 9, and I don't really have a comment.
See, you and I agree on that one.
So, yeah.
All right. Aaron, any pearls of wisdom?
Well, ready to move on to the xylophone, baby.
All right. Gone, Daddy, gone. And since you're prepared for the xylophone, why don't you lead off, Aaron?
Yeah, it's a dope song.
Mm.
Um, looks like they gave Willie Dixon a writing credit in that. I wonder what part
Huh.
they do part of like Killing Floor or something in there. But yeah, that well, I don't I turns out I love xylophones and vibraphones and it's just a groovy song. If the Beastie Boys song Girls wasn't so misogynistic, that'd be a really good song.
Yeah, I think yeah, this one Gnarls Barkley covered this one too. CeeLo does a really good, which is an interesting thing because CeeLo Green is like an
Much
incredible.
higher voice than
Well,
Gordon
he's
Young.
also just like he's an incredible, like singer in terms of just like what you would think of as like pure vocal talent. He
Yeah.
can hit a wide range of notes, right? But yeah, and his version might actually be a little better than the Violent Femmes version, and one of those rare like covers being better than the original. But yeah, it's a really good song. It's well written. It's fun. The xylophone is fun. Yeah,
The Blinded by the Light syndrome.
yeah.
I had it number 2. Um,
As did I.
oh, wait a minute. No, I had it
No.
number
Gone, Daddy, gone. You had it
3.
number 4.
Yeah, number 4. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. Number 4. Actually,
Tied with another song.
I'm a victim of my own scoring system here too. Prove My Love and Gone Daddy Gone, I had neck and neck, and I think I like Prove My Love a little bit better, but Gone, it's undeniable. Gone Daddy Gone. That's
Yeah.
just relentless, great,
Yeah.
relentlessly infectious. If the other ones were relentlessly off.
My comment was breakdancing.
Hmm.
Uh, is that, hun, go back up. Was it breakdancing? No, slam dancing.
Huh.
I
Yeah.
just pictured slam dancing with this song. And in a good way.
This one's also been used a lot. I can't cite where I've seen it, but in pop culture, I've heard this
A lot.
played a
Yeah, I'm
lot.
sure it's been in movies and shows. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a comment among people like when they sort of discover this album for the first time, people are sort of like, "Oh, I've heard all these songs before because they're all on movie soundtracks and television shows and um they show up in a lot of places. And it's not just like one or two, it's like more than half the songs on the album have probably been other places.
Yeah. I think a lot of creative types want to identify with this band because it was considered probably seminal to the sound. Like Mike, you kind of uh, disagreed with me a little bit, but to me it seems to be a little bit of a precursor to grunge, which was why perhaps it realized this renaissance in the early '90s.
Yeah, it might, I mean, it might have some of that. Yeah, I mean, I think like in that era of, I mean, the Violent Femmes, as we just always kind of called them a punk band, right? Like, even though they were like, it's not, but I think like that early punk music was just kind of like anything that wasn't mainstream. So like bands like the Talking Heads were called punk bands at one point, right? So I think like, uh, but yeah, I mean, I think that they're definitely, but that's definitely like for like, it's not as loud as you'd think of most like punk rock, right? It's kind of, I mean, maybe I guess probably share some similarity. I don't know if y'all ever heard of the Minutemen, but they're like
Oh yeah, Mike Watt.
yeah, from California. Kind of has a little bit maybe going on similar to that, but yeah. So, um, But yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I can see. But yeah, they're just sort of they're definitely an alternative sort of countercultural sort of band. Yeah.
Yeah, alternative, independent. Those are the
Yeah.
Yeah.
headings I'd file it under.
We mentioned the Talking Heads. What's that song? Oh, but that's the Tom Tom Club. But when you watch
Uh,
Stop Making Sense and they have that uh
Genius of Love.
Genius of Love, I was like, that is not punk. That's not punk rock at all, you know.
Yeah.
But that's really not, but yeah, you're right. I mean,
James
there was a
Brown.
tendency to take everything that wasn't radio rock or pop music and take it and throw it into this
Yeah.
bundle of punk rock. It's not all
Yeah.
really punk rock, but
Mm.
all right. So the final track that we're going to rank at least is Good Feeling. And Mike, since you're our guest, how about
Yeah.
you lead off on that one?
Yeah, so this was a second place on my list. I really love this song. It's really channeling the Velvet Underground for me, and the Velvet Underground are like probably my favorite band. They're one of my two or three favorite bands. It's kind of got like this uh and the lyrics kind of like to me it kind of it sounds like he's like coming down off drugs or something. He's like just good feeling, stay with me just a little longer, but it's one of the more mellow songs on the album, but I just really dig this song a lot. I like the sound of his voice on this song as well.
What is that, Velvet?
Yeah,
Is it Sunday Morning?
Yeah, yeah, Sunday Morning, that's a Velvet Underground song. Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of that a little bit, I guess. Aaron?
yeah. I never thought about the Velvet Underground connection, but it does kind of reek of Velvet Underground now that you mention it. Um, yeah, it's probably like number four for me. It's really kind of the core sound, I think, of what the Violent Femmes are.
Yeah.
Lisa, what do you got there?
I put it at I put it at 6, apparently. But I put pretty. It's kind of a pretty song for me.
Yeah.
So we're not doing ugly or gimme the car.
I mean we could talk about those songs as well, but
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna.
We don't have to.
I get the. I get the illusion. I definitely the relationship of his voice to Lou Reed. That comes together, especially
yeah.
in this song for sure. But I ranked it pretty low. I felt like it was. I think I didn't know it very well. Sometimes songs will grow on me later. This one, it just hit me that there was just something amiss for me on this
Yeah.
one.
I don't know that I would have,
Yeah.
this was an interesting exercise. I don't know that I would have ranked this song that high when I was younger, right?
Yeah, if you hadn't heard the album
Like
100 times.
yeah, yeah, when I was, when I was in high school, right? It was Added Up and Kiss Off were the ones we really liked a lot. And I still like those. I mean, Kiss Off is still my favorite one, but yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, things as you keep listening to stuff as you get older. I mean, this is a band I will say, like, I really like a lot of their catalog. But I do feel like I just connected with them at the right moment in my life when I was really getting into my own music and my own thing and starting a band for the first time. And, it's like, and they were just something really different, you know, you wouldn't normally see a guy get up on stage with two drums and play him standing up, or like guy beating a
Yeah.
box in the corner of the stage. They're just like just a different kind of band. And like if you go there, they're like wicked. This is kind of an interesting thing now. Is like so. This was a little after. So when I was coming up, we had this kind of like '90s punk, pop punk kind of thing going on. Bands like, I mean, Green Day was the one that like broke big, but bands like that or Rancid and stuff like that were kind of really big. And then there were a lot of people in the scene that emulated those kinds of bands. And then like about 10 years behind me, this I think it's early 2000s, I want to say, a lot of those kids got into this stuff they started calling folk punk, which is like, kids playing acoustic guitars and washboards and I don't know what those basses that, but it's just like one string connected to like a wash tub at the bottom, and like
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
and
they
uh
put it down on Younger, the TV
yeah,
station.
and they play really fast, and they have kind of ugly sounding voices, but they're basically playing folk music at a sped up pace. And the Violent Femmes, Wikipedia calls them a folk punk band, but I don't think they had ever referred to themselves like that. I think that's like people retroactively
Mm.
making that connection. But it's an interesting
Going
genre.
like split lip Rayfield type music.
uh, it's an interesting genre of music, and one of the really big bands in that genre, this band called Days and Days, is from Houston, and they're just kind of like folk punk bands sing about real dark stuff. So you kind of like got to get over that part. Like they're really unabashedly into drugs and hopping trains, and just kind of all sorts of like, uh, you know, there's a
Drink
guy.
PPR.
Yeah, there's a guy named well, he's gone by several different names, but Pat the Bunny, who he was like notoriously homeless in California somewhere and putting out records that were getting like a lot of traction in the underground punk scene. So, but that was a little past my time, but I kind of caught a hold of it just from people that were younger than me in the scene. And I really actually dig a lot of that stuff. So and I could kind of make the connection, but I think probably those bands were inspired by a different genre that was probably inspired by the Violent Femmes, but it's just kind of interesting to see that on their Wikipedia page when
Right.
I well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You made that point in a chat thread, and I
Yeah.
checked out some of that music. It's actually really good. It was actually,
Yeah.
um, but okay. So there were two other, like, I don't think we're ranking these final two tracks that appeared on the re-release, but if you guys have anything you want to say on behalf of Ugly or Give Me the Car, I know that Aaron, you
Yeah,
said
because I actually did not hear either of those songs.
Give Me the Car is my number one.
Mhm.
Ugly's probably around five-ish.
Yeah. I really like Give Me the Car. It's just like he does this like he uses the guitar to like make sounds. So he's like,
Yeah.
give me the car tonight. He's like talking about to his
I
dad.
got this girl.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna take her
wanna.
home.
Pew!
Yeah, and it's just got these like guitar sounds. It's kind of it's using humor in the song with the instruments.
Come
It's
on, Dad, give me the car.
okay.
yeah.
Well, why don't we, Aaron, is it too much of an ask to have you help us come up with the banger?
The
I have
banger?
an idea of what the banger is based on what we ranked them, but
Um, I would
you
have
have your
to
spreadsheet.
open and yeah, create a new spreadsheet. It'd probably take me about 10 minutes.
Oh, 10
I
minutes.
could maybe just tell you afterwards who the banger is, and you could tack it on at the end.
That works for me.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's maybe
If you
you and
don't
I,
mind
before I
doing it.
release this, you and I will reconvene and we'll go over the rankings and come up,
Yeah.
and then we'll put that into the podcast.
So I was going to do my proper rankings and set up a spreadsheet in the hour before the podcast, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was an hour before I thought.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's like just thinking like, when I went and saw this band and there's just like a lot of threads, like it's just an interesting. I remember when I was a teenager getting into the Violent Femmes, and I think I went with my parents to see the Rolling Stones when they played on the Voodoo Lounge tour, right? And I like the Rolling Stones, but it was like, you know, kind of rolling your eyes at these guys, and I think they were probably in their 50s, maybe 60s at that time, but like you know, these old guys on stage and all the old people trying to rock out and dress cool and stuff, and
They were old when I saw them in '88,
yeah, and
the
this is
Steel Wheels tour.
this was I think Voodoo Lounge was like 93, 94 or something like
Yeah.
yeah. So, uh, you know, and so then you find yourself doing that stuff when you get to be this age. It's like I saw the Pixies a few years ago, and I've seen a lot of bands sort of well past their prime.
Well, I'm told we have tickets to see the
Saw
Pixies.
Was it last year or the year before?
Four, I think.
Okay.
You saw, yeah, you guys saw them a year or two ago.
But to
Right.
us,
My
that's
wife told me a week or two ago, oh, by the way, we're going to see the Pixies.
Oh,
oh,
nice.
I don't even remember when.
I am
And
a
then there's three Fish shows at the end of the month at Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah,
but we're kind of like we're checking some bands off that are still active. It's like I'm not going to see AC/DC. I'm not going to go, and I'm not talking about the brand of music. I'm just talking about the
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
going
but
to go see
I guess
John Cougar Mellencamp. I'm
yeah.
not going to go see. I'm not. We went and
It kind of depends.
I
I
don't know.
mean, we went to
It's we
the Outlaw tour.
we need to see some newer
Mhm.
bands,
Yeah,
younger
but
bands. But to us, the Pixies are a younger band. So,
Yeah.
so there you go.
I think like one of the things that's interesting though is like I think like I just often wonder about because I'm always interested in like, how can we change the world? How can we make it better? What kind of stuff's going on? I guess this band kind of struck a chord with me because one, yeah, I really connected to them when I was a teenager and I was really into that nostalgic vibe of seeing them live, but I also, wonder about like um in the arts, right? Music seems a genre. Like if you in writing, right? Like I think most writers don't really break it until their 40s sometime. Occasionally you have people younger than that, but for the most part it takes a while to like develop your craft and have something to say about the world. Music it hits a little younger because you got this physical dexterity and kids get super into music. Um, but it does seem like, you'll see these like older bands who've been around for a long time and they really like that album they put out last year. But like everybody wants them to play this album from 20, 30 years ago. And it's just kind of like I wonder how much like the economic influence of like how much consumer culture we have here plays into that to where like it maybe I don't know if dulls our appreciation of the arts, but sort of keeps us stuck in these in this rotation of these same
Right.
songs, right?
Yeah.
And so like I mean I listen to a lot of stuff, but I was just kind of like that's kind of the difference between doing that and then going to like the local scene here, which one of the things I like about it is that you know new bands are forming all the time, and this one band gets two members from here and two members from another band, and now they got a band too, and you just kind of see the range of different stuff that people get into and sort of their songwriting and that sort of thing, and so these like tours that are set up. I mean, obviously, if you've been a musician your entire life, and I think like the Violent Femmes have probably done okay. They've sold a lot of records, but you don't have health insurance, you don't have a lot of other things. So if
yeah.
you want to keep making money, you kind of have to keep touring because you don't make a lot off your records anymore, right? And so you also wonder about like how much do these 60-year-old guys really want to get out on the road anymore? Like
Well,
Yeah.
it's like
travel.
this idea of rock stars. That's kind of like that's. I mean, there are rock stars that are still alive, but
Yeah,
the whole rock star culture is kind of a bygone thing. The new artists don't really project themselves as rock stars. They're more engaged with society. They're not these
A
like
lot of it's social
they
media.
used to call them rock gods, because they were separate from society. But I mean, they're reaching out through social media and they're more in touch with their fan base to where there's more engagement. And so I think that these when you're going to see Willie Nelson, you're not going to go see a great concert. You're going to see an icon. You're going to see
yeah,
a legend. That's
yeah,
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah.
yeah,
I was wondering after the SNL 50 thing, would I see Paul Simon now? And I felt like he's my bucket list thing that I haven't seen, but he's really a shell of himself these days.
yeah. I
Right.
am.
It
Yeah,
might be it might be too it might be more sad than
It is.
Yeah.
enjoyable.
It's sad.
Yeah.
yeah. I
But
saw Bob Dylan at the rodeo one year. And Houston has a big rodeo every year, but the rodeo
Mhm.
concerts are really terrible because it's like they put a stage out in the middle of Reliant Stadium, uh, and it spins around. It's like a
It's
dome
in the
type.
round.
Yeah, yeah, and it's but there's like a good I don't know exactly what the feet count would be, but like you're at a football field. Imagine looking in the middle of the football field, but there's still a
Yeah.
big
Yeah. Big
turnaround.
spinning.
So, yeah, and I think that was like kind of like, I guess that's probably why that maybe going to see them struck me. This is that was it wasn't a huge venue, but it's at this place called White Oak Music Hall. It's probably seats a few thousand or a couple thousand people, something like that. Maybe a little less than that, but it's big, but it's not gigantic. but I don't know, like when I was growing up, I got really going. There's this club in Houston that's now a parking lot, but it's at the time it was called Fitzgerald's. It was a famous music place in Houston. Stevie Ray Vaughan played there, but it kind of became the punk club when I was growing up, and yeah, and there was just like bands all the time, and the place was this place. I think probably their occupancy was a couple hundred, but they used to pack it in pretty good. But the stage is like a couple feet, a few feet tall, and you can walk right up to the stage, and the band's close enough for they can drip sweat on you and stuff, and it's just like a different experience to me than like going and sitting down in a stadium and watching a concert. So
Gone to
uh
so many ball games and football games. I can't imagine a worse venue for a concert than I mean,
yeah.
no, I've never been to one. So maybe I'm be overwhelmed by the production values and everything like that. But to me, it doesn't seem like a very good environment to see a concert at all.
Yeah, so I just always like, enjoyed the kind of club feel. And the Violent Femmes, this was not like a stadium type thing, but it was just like it was a concert, and the stage is a little far away, and just kind of stuff like that. And so, but I still really enjoyed. The music was great, and the band was really good, but it was just like I don't go to a lot of those kind of nostalgia type shows, that I was just kind of interested in that vibe, right? And not that I think there's anything bad about it, right? I definitely got in touch with my teenage self for a few hours, right? But it's just like, it's just a different sort of way to consume art than I think naturally I would want to. So I guess that's kind of why it
Mm.
struck me, but I really had a good time, and it was a good show. So,
Now,
just
is there any tolerance for a Elite Eight bracket? Or I did put one together.
I want to be the moderator on that
You guys want to do
because
that?
I haven't heard of
I don't
some
think
of the
I don't know if
bands.
Mike's familiar with that. At the end of
yeah,
our
I think we've done one before. I got about 10, 15 minutes, so
Okay.
we can do that.
perfect,
Let's
let's go ahead and do it.
we're not going to explain it. It takes longer to explain it than it does to do it. So, okay, these are bands that influence the Violent Femmes.
Not vice versa, but influence the violence
Yeah, influence. I thought I said that.
based on
Okay.
some interviews. You did say
Okay.
that. I just want to make
Okay.
sure you did say that.
Okay. Now the Ramon, blah. I speak good. The Ramones versus Johnny Thunders.
I'm going the Ramones for sure.
Yeah, Ramones.
Yeah, that's a sweep.
Okay. The Pretenders versus the Velvet Underground. That's a toughie.
Velvet Underground.
Yeah.
Velvet Underground.
Mike, did you
I
said
said Velvet Underground.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's another sweep.
Okay.
Although I do like the Pretenders quite a bit.
Two bands I have not, to my knowledge, heard. Television versus Roxy Music. I've heard of Roxy Music, but I do not believe I have, heard
Yeah.
their music.
I'll go television.
I'll go Roxy Music.
Television or Roxy Music.
Aaron, we couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I went Roxy Music.
I'm gonna go television.
Mm.
Hun, you're a tiebreaker.
Television.
So I haven't heard Johnny Thunders. I haven't heard Television. I haven't heard Roxy Music, to my knowledge. I have heard the Sex Pistols, and I have not heard Richard Hell.
So Sex Pistols versus Richard Hell.
Sex Pistols versus Richard Hell.
Yep.
Sex Pistols.
I'm gonna go Richard Hell.
Sex Pistols.
Okay.
I should say that my knowledge of Richard Hell's not great. I know he's highly influential. I've heard about him quite a
Well,
bit.
Richard Hell he was in television. Then he went on to be Richard Hell of the Voivodes. Yeah.
So we're talking. Okay, so we're talking. Okay, kind of talking
Okay.
the same thing, but we'll go with television.
Okay.
Or no, Sex Pistols. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
All right, second round.
Okay. Final four. Ramones versus the Velvet Underground.
Velvet Underground.
Ooh, that's hard. Yeah, I'll go Velvet Underground.
Aaron?
He said Velvet, I think.
Oh,
Velvet
okay.
Underground.
Sorry, we're not,
So Velvet Underground moves on, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw one to the Ramones just for kicks.
Mm-hmm. Kicks and giggles. Television or the Sex Pistols?
I'm gonna get Television again.
Sex Pistols.
What did you say, Mike? I'm sorry.
Television.
He said Television. I said Sex Pistols.
All right, I'm going to go Sex Pistols.
So, for the number one, no, this isn't the banger. Okay. Velvet Underground or the Sex Pistols?
Velvet Underground.
Velvet Underground.
I'm going to go Velvet just for musicality.
Sweep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the Sex Pistols, that first album is pretty good, but I don't know. I hate Johnny Rotten. And
Right.
I like Public Image Limited more than Sex Pistols too, but like it's just kind of
He's in the news today. Something about the Sex Pistols.
yeah.
Some kind of feud. I'm the Sex Pistols. They're not.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around, right? There's Black Flag, which is like a famous hardcore band from California, but they
Henry Rollins used to be the singer.
yeah, Henry Rollins was the singer. Keith Morris from the Circle Jerks was also the singer, and had one other singer as well. Can't remember his name at the moment, but yeah. So like their guitar player is like a notorious piece of crap, and he owns the rights to everything, and he's been touring with like three guys that are not in any relation to the band, calling it Black Flag. So a few years back, the other three members got together and formed Flag, which was like which was the Black Flag with their actual original lead singer Keith Morris, and was a much better band as well. But yeah, you just like see those kind of musical disputes sometimes, and they're just kind of like Black Flag and Flag both came to Houston, I think, one year in like the same couple of weeks, and people were like, go to see Black Flag, and it was like, which one, and
Isn't that the same thing going on with Yes? There's two versions of Yes out there, I think. John Anderson and then without John Anderson.
yeah,
That could be.
yeah.
All right. Well, this has been fun. We knew it would be.
Yeah.
And Aaron and I will retrofit our banger into the final product, and then we'll post
Yeah,
it.
we'll find out who it was. Did you wrote down Mike's picks?
Oh, I can send them to you in the chat.
Okay, yeah, just send them to us.
Yeah.
We'll throw it all together.
We could go through the audio, but that's that gets to be a challenge.
That's time consuming.
Yeah. All right.
All
Well,
right.
And
Mike,
then we'll see, since CJ did want to participate, why don't we see if we can get CJ's picks?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
If he wants to add his picks, sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, it's good talking to y'all. I'll see y'all
See
later.
you. Cheers,
All right.
everybody.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
We have social.
Twitter,
Yeah, pod.
Instagram,
Yeah, pod.
Facebook.
Yeah, pod.